Rawr. That is right. We are talking about How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. So, I can't call myself the biggest fan of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. I've only read one of the books, and I didn't love the second movie. I didn't. I haven't watched any of the spin-off TV shows, but I am one of the many who greatly enjoyed the original film when it came out. It was just another one of those movies that really stuck with me, and I obsessively rewatched it over the years, and I'm a proud owner of that movie. I really like that movie. Now, over a decade later, we have the finale to that trilogy, and I guess the question we're answering here today is, was it worth the wait? Let's start with positives. Animation. It's hard to say whether this has the best look of all the movies. A lot of scenes do take place at night, so I guess it's kind of hard to soak up all the details, but on the other hand, the first two installments had climaxes that took place almost entirely in bleak and gray environments. In this movie, the climax takes place in a boat out in the open sea during the day, where the colors pop so much more. The hidden world, like the dragons sort of glow, like all these psychedelic colors. There's a lot of beauty in the animation here. So I'm prepared to answer that question with a yes. And also, this is something that was part of the previous films, but I only really noticed it this time. All of the dragon trainers wear armor that matches the scaly skin of their monstrous pets, the dragons. And I don't know, that was a cool little detail for me. I didn't really notice that before. I mean, also the dragons have fairly similar personalities, but just from a visual perspective, I thought that was cool. I don't know, it's a little stuff sometimes. And the designs of the dragons in the city of Burke was just as stunning as ever, maybe the most stunning. It was obvious there was a lot of care put into the visual aesthetic of this movie. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a How to Train Your Dragon movie without that breathtaking score from John Powell. Wow. I gotta be honest, I kind of got chills and was tempted to cry when hearing that beautiful motif again after so many years. You know the one. Yeah, I mean, as beautiful as my singing is, I can't really do it justice here. You guys understand. You get it. Even though I haven't been as keen on these movies as other people out there, I mean, there were massive fans of this series. Like, don't underestimate people's ability to just love crap or hate crap. But this definitely captured some of my nostalgia. I mean, the first movie came out like just 9 years ago. I was 6 when that freaking movie came out. And there was just a part of this that was always going to be sort of enjoyable to just see these characters brought back to the screen. Just, it was nice. There was some part of me that just has to admit some of my enjoyment of this movie was a little shallow. It's just like, I don't know. I'm kind of connected to the series a little bit. I kind of love Tough Nut in this movie. This is a really specific thing. I mean, normally the twins are excellent comedic reliefs, and Rough Nut is also great. But she really stood out in this one. She's a comedic relief. She's a side character. She doesn't have that many scenes, but honestly, everything that came out of her mouth was pretty darn funny, I gotta admit. As for Snotlout, who had a crush on Hiccup's mom in the movie, some of the decisions made in this movie were just like, this is the finale to a trilogy, guys. Like, do you really have to put this? Okay, I guess we're going into negatives. So now that I've pointed out specific stuff that I liked, which doesn't completely and accurately represent my overall thoughts about the movie, by the way, let's dive into negatives. Now, I don't know if it was just my theater sound system being really bad, or if it was the movie, but the sound mixing of this movie was kind of bad. That beautiful music swells, but the friggin' dialogue simmers. There were just so many lines I couldn't really hear because it was just so drowned out by the music. So that was kind of annoying. And yeah, this movie definitely follows a formula, as I could just smell from the trailers. It basically has the same plot and structure as the last two. Hiccup narrates about Burke, characters discover a hidden land populated with dragons, characters discover bad guy who wants to capture the dragons and kill them. You get the point. It just feels like you could do a lot more with this concept than DreamWorks really did. I mean, you're working with dragons here. This is probably the most famous mythic animal out there. Like, it's just really does it have to come down to the exact layout? I mean, I know you're gonna touch on similar stuff, but like come on, like I don't know. The first movie just felt so new, and then these sequels just make that a little just I don't know. They're just not as fresh and fun as the first movie, and I think for the most part, that's kind of undeniable. Although there is a camp out there that likes the second one more than the first one. They have something wrong with them, but oh well. Yeah. In that way, it does seem like How to Train Your Dragon has been on the back burner for DreamWorks, despite being arguably their most beloved series. I mean, you have Shrek, I guess, but like who's out here cheering for Madagascar or Kung Fu Panda quite as much as How to Train Your Dragon? It's just a little more. It's just a little disappointing they couldn't be more creative with this story. Also, a lot of you probably won't care about this, but the thematic elements of this movie were just sort of scattered and all over the place. The message of the first movie was pretty straightforward. I mean, yeah, like it was about prejudice, and acceptance. The second one was about family and loss. The third one is about love. The third one is about being your own person. The third one is about prejudice and acceptance. The third one is about everything but the granny's panties. Like, seriously. For that reason, it was just kind of hard to get invested at some points. I guess I've been spoiled by some of, like, Lord Miller's earlier work, pre-Lego Movie 2. Watch that video. Which just has such emotional resonance due to the fact that the movie remains thematically focused among all the chaotic shenanigans they throw at you. I mean, take the Lego Batman movie. That's a movie that has a very cliched message, friends or family, blah blah blah. But it ties that into the character of Batman and sells you on it. Like it's something it's not just a message that's thrown in there for kids. Like it's backed up by the rest of the movie. For this, there wasn't really one through line. So it didn't do it for me in that department. But by far, the biggest sin of this movie is just being sort of unsatisfying. The first two films had excellent third acts, which all had emotional payoffs, and now we're going to get into spoilers. The first one had Hiccup losing his leg. The second one had Hiccup losing his father. And beyond that, like, those climaxes were just super exciting, utilizing the dragon's abilities really well, and it really made all the characters seem like a team. With this one, you don't really get any of that. Like, in general, this movie just didn't stick the landing. It felt incredibly short, despite being almost as long as the second one, which is like an hour and 45 minutes. That's like, that should be more than enough. Like, most animated movies are about that long nowadays. The ending really does not make a lot of sense either. This whole trilogy, they've been saying that Vikings and dragons are allies. And now because one dude who they defeated easily wanted to kill the dragons again, they're willing to give them up entirely and cast them off to this other land just like that? What? Like, and it's all erased from history? Why didn't they do that in the last movie? The antagonist in the previous one was arguably much more of a threat, despite this film's claims to the contrary. Like, oh, we underestimated Gromley is so powerful. You fight on a boat. Are you kidding me? Like, you do not, like, Gromley is not a great villain. Anyway, that's besides the point. But, like, yeah, like, That dude had the power to brainwash the dragons, which led to the chief being killed. But Grimmel is where you guys draw the line. Whose, like, squad army you barely see in the movie? Like, what? And why didn't they just stick to Hiccup's original plan where they were all going to move to the hidden world? Whatever happened to that? Because they like this new land that, like, if you look at the land in the movie, it's mostly filled with trees. What the heck are you gonna do? Like, it wasn't very spacious. There was no practicality in that. And then you look at the hidden world, and it's like, oh, like, I mean, I guess, like, it's a little weirdly laid out for people, but, like, they didn't know that, and Burke's not exactly the most organized, city, or whatever you call it, village ever. So, like, it baffles me. It doesn't make any sense. And it seemed like Toothless just wanted to be with his girlfriend. He wasn't ready to completely abandon his best friend over her. Bros before hoes, as they say. I don't know if that applies to dragons, but alright. I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way. Seeing this trilogy end with such a thrown-in conclusion like this, just for some, like, forced emotional beats. This movie didn't really have a sense of finality prior to that, so I don't really understand why they had to end the series in that fashion. And it was a little weird, just, like, let's keep in mind, I grew up with How to Train Your Dragon. Like, by the time, like, I mean, the average age I think most people would watch the first movie is, like, 6. That's how old I was. So by the time you reach this movie, all the people were, 14, 15, maybe 13. And I feel like the trailers, or at least the first trailer, kind of promised something more epic and maybe a little more adult. Like, the second one had his dad dying. Like, that is really, that's something you don't see in a lot of kids' movies. Just a dad dying right there, then and there. Like, usually you have, like, an on-screen death in a Disney movie, like, before. But, like, this is, like, this dude, like, died at the hands of one of the main characters. You don't get a sense of any of that sort of maturity in this movie, which was kind of disappointing for a trilogy capper like this, where most of the people watching it are older now. I feel like we maybe deserve something a little better than this. Hiccup does rock that beard, though. I gotta say, that's you got a nice one there. So yeah, DreamWorks in general has just disappointed me recently. Their movies started as wonderful additions to the kids' animation roster, and they proved they had the balls to do certain things that Disney really didn't. But in recent years, their movies have just gotten rather samey and a little mediocre. Like, Kung Fu Panda 3 and all these movies were just meh, and I haven't seen Trolls or The Boss Baby. Those look bad. This, unfortunately, just didn't change any of that. It didn't break the pattern. In the end, this is, again, a perfectly fine movie. It's a perfectly fine follow-up to a perfectly fine follow-up to a great movie. And that's about as good as it gets for me. I had a decent time watching it. I wasn't bored. I wasn't angry like I was with the Lego movie. I wasn't irritated. I just think it could have been a lot better. So, I know this may confuse some of you guys, but just for all those reasons, I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. I don't really usually recommend, like, movies that are, 6 out of 10s, but, like, if you're a fan of the series, if you like the first two, you'll probably get some sort of kick out of this. And, I like all of these movies. I just only really thought one of them was, like, the definitive How to Train Your Dragon movie, the great one. And the other ones have just been alright. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe, and ring the bell if you want to check out the rest of my content for some reason. And as always, I will see you in the next video. My roar.